Hi, and welcome to Torah Cafe's Business Bytes for the Corporate Soul. Today, I would like to look at work modalities. How do different people function differently in the workplace and in life in general? And we'll begin by looking at the contrast, the similarity and the differences of two verses, one in the Torah portion of Genesis and the other in the Torah portion of Noah. When God creates Adam, he gives him a commandment, the first commandment to all humanity, and he says, be fruitful and multiply. He's telling them a human being has to celebrate life and partner with God in creation and bring new life into the world. At the same time, he says to them, included in this command is to subdue the world and to dominate the world, to rule over everything that has been created. Now, some people take offense to this, and this is not really our topic today. This is not talking about disregard for God's creation and something that should get anyone who is environmentally aware concerned. God wants us to take care of the world, but there's a notion over there of dominance where a human being is the ultimate point of creation and is going to direct and manage whatever is happening. Then in the Torah portion of Noah, God says to Noah, he emerges from the ark and he says to him, be fruitful and multiply. And here he doesn't tell him dominate, subdue. He says to him, fill the world and spread out in the world. Be abundant in this world. It's a very different feeling, quality to that command. The one is more power-oriented in a sense, and the other one is more about kind of gentle expansion that feels to have a lot of abundance mentality around it. Now, our sages ask, why the need to repeat this? If Adam already had the obligation, had been given the commandment to be fruitful and multiply, why did God need to repeat it with Noah? So there are various opinions. One is that to Adam it was a command, and to Noah it was a blessing. I'm giving you a blessing that you should be able to be fruitful and multiply to go out into the world. Another way of looking at it is to say that the flood had come, it caused great devastation in the world, and God was telling Noah, you know what, I'm going to renew that covenant with you. I don't want you to feel that you now have to go forward and you're going to bring children into the world and be worried that I'm going to bring destruction upon them. No, I'm not. And later we know he showed him the rainbow to say, this is a covenant between you and me that I'm never going to bring a flood. I'm not going to cause this kind of destruction. There is another way of looking at it. At some level, there is a pre-flood reality and a post-flood reality. And this is not just talking about something that happened thousands of years ago. All of us have within ourselves, the pre- and post-flood reality. Any story that happens in the Bible recurs in our own lives at an inner deep, whether it's intrapsychic level, at the soul level, at a physical level, those stories are reenacting themselves. Prior to the flood, the world was more coarse. The flood was like a mikveh for reality. So the universe was a much coarser universe. And therefore the way that Adam and Chava and their descendants had to engage with the world was through dominance, a kind of top-down modality. Bringing their presence to bear and shifting the world, but not necessarily because the world was asking for it or ready for it, because they could see what was necessary and they wanted to make what was necessary happen. After the flood, once the world had been purified and refined, it was existentially a different world. As we are told, Noah exited the ark. He came out and he saw a new world. It wasn't just that the world was revived and it was coming back to itself after the devastation. Rather, the world was new. There was an aspect, a dimension to reality that had never been there before. Noah saw this new world, and as such the world was, being that it was more refined, less gross, it was more receptive to the influence of humanity and to becoming godly, to being elevated. So there's the pre-flood modality of dominance, which is top-down, and there is the post-flood modality, which is of change, but change that is happening bottom up. Chassidus explains that these two modalities apply in a general sense to male and female ways of being, to men and women. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean, as I said before, whatever's in the Torah is there in each one of us. There are general differences between men and women, and by identifying those differences and learning about them, we can avoid conflict, whether it's in our own marriages, or whether it's in a business setting or a social setting. Just knowing where are you coming from and where are you coming from. You have a different style, a different way of being, and we all have the same mission, but we have different ways of getting there. At the same time, each one of us holds within ourselves three dimensions: the male, the female, and the child. And we are told that the male aspect of a person is the go-getter. Ish dar kolikfosh, a man's ways to conquer. That's the part of me that goes out and wants to slay dragons and capture the sparks and bring them back to the hub, the place that I am centered in. The female modality is kol kfuda bat melech pnima. The female, the glory of the feminine is its inwardness, its desire to be connected one to another. And therefore, there's a part of me that is going to be not looking to dominate and control, but really co-opt and bring you in. The Lubavitcher Rebbe has a remarkable explanation of how the pre- and post-flood modalities apply to men and women's ways of being in the world. And he says a man's way in general, or if it's the male in each one of us, is much more top-down. It's called memshala. Memshala is rulership, like government. I tell you what to do. And at some level, we need that kind of leadership in a business situation, in a home, in a community. I see the vision, and this is what I want should happen. However, the ultimate in leadership is what we call malchut. It's not government from above, not memshala, but true leadership is grassroots. As we are taught, there's no king without a nation. Ein melech blo am. So the king is the ultimate leader of the people, and yet he's nothing without the people. If they don't accept him, he's not the king. This is more a female modality, the inwardness, the let's do this together modality. It's the post-flood way of being in the world. I come to you and I co-opt you. That's a very powerful way of leading, meaning everyone in the organization feels this is my project, this is what I care about, and I want to make it happen. So the leadership doesn't have to be as harsh in that way. There's a very interesting book written by a sociolinguist. Her name is Deborah Tannen, and I think the book is called You Just Don't Understand. And in the book, she analyzes the way men and women interact. It's fascinating to see how a sociolinguist would come up with very similar ideas to what is being espoused by our sages. She says, for example, men use language to control. So they'll say, do this or do that. Or when they're little, they play more in groups, gangs, and gang up against each other. She says little girls tend to play together in twos or threes, and threes often a crowd. And they don't say do this or do that. They say let's. Let's do this and let's do that. So when we're looking for effectivity in our business lives, our social or personal family lives, we have to bear in mind everyone has a different way of being in the world. And I would venture to say that very successful men have a highly developed female component to their being. They're able to be connectors and co-opt people, and women who are successful in their lives have a developed male component, which is top-down leadership. This is my vision. I'll point my finger. That's where I want us to get. Here's to celebrating the gifts that we each have to offer and what another person brings to whatever project it is that we're working on, top-down, bottom-up. Please God, we should reach our goal, which is whichever direction the leadership has come from, we manage to rectify the world and bring Mashiach now.